Hello and welcome back to the channel and welcome to fall. Today is September 1st, the first day of fall. Summer is officially over and I'm just doing the weekly vlog to catch up on what I read this past week, what I'm currently reading, what I'm about to read, and to, most importantly, talk about movies and shows, the realm of media I consume outside of books in a segment on the channel. So hello, welcome back. My name is Zach. On this channel, I mostly review science fiction and fantasy books, but of course delve into everything else from comics to manga, personal development, and yes, once a week, movies and TV shows. So what did I finish? Not looking back at all of the summer, even though summer is sadly over, but what did I finish this past week? So what I finished this past week first was Book of the New Sun, Volume 2, The Claw of the Conciliator. This one was absolutely great. I loved it. The story is better and better as you kind of know the world more. Everything makes a little more sense. Of course, Gene Wolfe's writing makes it still very up to interpretation. The second book also has a play within a play, which I really enjoyed. It's kind of that commentary on the character watching the play, the character Severin also in the play about the world. Yeah, it's crazy, and it relates to a movie I'm going to talk about later, which is Mulholland Drive. So sort of similarities there to this book I read, Book of the New Sun, and then the next book that to talk about, which I started and finished in a week as a buddy read along with a viewer. So thanks, Alvin, for suggesting this and reading with me in a week. Yes, I know I'm a kind of a fast reader. And that is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This book really scratched all my itches for a deep kind of psychological fantasy world. Yeah, a lot of world building with a vague ethereal ending, very similar to Book of the New Sun, where it's this weird world. You're trying to make sense of it as a reader reading the book now and what the character is experiencing. And personally, as a super fan of Severance when it was airing at the start of this year, this book really gave me Severance vibes, the Apple TV show, which I absolutely love, was obsessed with while season 2 was airing. I read, there's like 3 subreddits on Reddit about Severance theories. Every single week I was reading the episode discussion, was totally lost in the fandom, and I love that week-to-week fandom experience. And yeah, I wish I read this book sooner, even though, yes, I've had it in my Audible library forever, because it plays with a lot of the same ideas of severance, of sense of self, reintegration, which is a theme on Severance, of putting your 2 pieces of the severed innie and outie together, being lost in a magical world, which is like the Labyrinth and Piranesi. Yeah, and the writing was great, the prose is great, and maybe even better was the audible performance. The narrator was amazing. His voice, it just perfectly fit the story. It was calming and soothing, and the pacing and the tone was absolutely perfect for the story. It was, yeah, a 10 out of 10 performance. The story maybe had a few things. Yeah, there's foreshadowing, reading like the other reviews. I kind of knew where it was probably going, but I like that I was guessing along the way. So more to talk about later, and maybe a full review of Piranesi, but really enjoyed starting and finishing in a week. It's a short book, so it was great. And then since Piranesi was finished, and I also finished Claw of the Conciliator earlier this week, I started one book, and then because my library hold, which is also a lot of times drives my reading queue, came available. Yeah, I started 2 books this week. The first book to talk about is one that also I've been waiting to read about for the longest time from my Audible library. I finally purchased it and started reading it, and that is Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, the first book of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Yeah, do we even need to say more about Malazan? It's one of those series that seems very divided. A lot of super fans, a lot of people that couldn't finish it. I am going into this, I'm only about 40% done with the first book, which is a lot. They're all long epic fantasies. But I knew that going in, that people say, oh, it's a really hard book, multiple POVs. But I also went into this knowing that the world that Steven Erikson built, this Malazan world. Again, I'm very confused on the wording because the author of the audiobook says it one way and I feel like I want to say it another way. But Malazan the world is based on, I think, Erikson's D&D campaign. So knowing that, it set some like expectations in my mind that, okay, this is going to be a vaguely D&D kind of story, and it absolutely is delivering on that. Magic is commonplace, like in traditional D&D for like myself growing up on 80s D&D culture. It's magic is present, monsters are present, and I think the coolest part that I'm enjoying is gods in this world are present and they meddle in the affairs of men. I think that's not talked about enough in reviews. When I was trying to understand the series, I watched some Malazan primers of, okay, it's going to be crazy epic, there's a lot of stories, and just kind of enjoy it. But I think the coolest part to me is that magic is commonplace and gods are present and meddle in the affairs of men. So it really echoes another favorite growing up, like Greek mythology, where Zeus and the gods are directly influencing the affairs of men, and it happens here in this world. But of course, it's that kind of twist on that Greek mythology, classical Greek mythology, in the sense that these are like chaos gods and gods of assassins, and there's monsters, not just the classical minotaurs and cyclops of like Greek mythology. So it's very cool. I am absolutely loving it. It's maybe a couple POVs, like where I am now. Yes, I want to get back to the bridge burners, but I think all the characters that we've learned so far are great. It's Tattersail is great. I love Tattersail's story so far. Yeah, the Whiskey Jack and the Bridge Burners, really great. I love Quickmen. There's so many great characters so far. I am just loving it. I don't see what the big deal about Malazan is. It's blown me away. I love Gardens of the Moon so far. Highly recommended. If you're into that kind of epic fantasy where it is a lot of world building, because there's so many characters, it's hard to love any one, but that makes it even better because there's so many to love. And just the magic system and the empires. It's the story of an empire. It's totally right up my alley as well. Even though, yes, I said that with Piranesi, which is a very different book, but Gardens of the Moon is right up my alley. I love it. And then next to talk about a new release, because I didn't think I'd get the library hold so quickly, but with the library, sometimes they'll get, your library has acquired different additional copies. So one of my library holds, you got additional copies. I put holds at 2 different libraries, and one came through. So thank you, Nassau Digital Library. And I got Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. So this book, tons of hype, tons of very also divided author, not necessarily book so far, because you either love or hate R.F. Kuang. This is my 3rd book by R.F. Kuang that I'm reading. DNF'd Babel, which I didn't really love. It was very kind of, I think, heavy-handed in the colonialism is bad, and here is how the British Empire conquered colonies. And maybe I didn't give enough time, but I got about 30% and then just dropped it. I wasn't in the mood, wasn't in the right mind space for that. But then I gave her next book, Yellowface, a chance. I thought it was really fun. It was like a critique of the publishing industry. Again, with maybe a heavy-handed, yes, publishing is bad. This, not publishing is bad, but the way the industry works is bad. It's skews towards, DI kind of practices and who they support and who they don't. And it was just a fun fiction read. There's no fantasy involved. It's just kind of a fictional story of 2 authors and they're kind of rivalry, I guess you could say, in the publishing world. I never read Poppy War, so I actually skipped Kuang's first book. But yes, so far, Katabasis, it's a good break from Malazan, from Gardens of the Moon, because it's very different. The writing style is very different. It's fantasy because, yes, the characters are descending into hell, so it's definitely fantastical. There's magic, but instead of Babel's linguistic magic, this time it's chalk magic. And I like the explanation for the magic system. I think it makes sense that you have to kind of make a paradox and then believe strongly in the paradox to kind of will the change in the world. So it's an interesting take on a magic system, like this chalk plus paradox. Reminds me of Witch Hat Atelier, the manga about using ink in order to create magic. In this world, they have to use special chalk because of the properties of chalk. So it's an interesting kind of parallel to Witch Hat Atelier in the magic system, if you can think about it that way. And the story so far, not to say it's not predictable, you can see kind of the romance brewing with the two main characters from chapter like 2. And I mean, okay, I'm only 30%, but it really seems that that's what's going to happen to our main characters. They're this simmering romance at the edges because, of course, they're descending into hell together, this shared experience. And again, in the heavy-handed note in this one is academia is bad, the system is bad. Again, mirroring Kuang's own kind of journey in Yellowface. Again, talking about her time as a published author. Maybe Babel was her time in like undergrad and talking about linguistics and learning languages, but I think it's something that she studies in real life. And now I think in real life, she's, of course, I think finishing her PhD. And this novel is about the PhD academic process. So it very mirrors her life, and it's a critique of whatever maybe she's going through as a person, and getting heavy-handed that, yes, academia has some bad practices in it. So far, yeah, kind of reserving judgment, but it's not bad. It's an easy read, and it's a very good break to go back between Malazan and Katabasis, which has one point of view versus Malazan's multiple POVs. So it's good to kind of read these together. So that's what I read, and maybe because this is fall, to talk about what I'm about to read. Looking at my library holds and what's upcoming and what I have slated in like my Audible credits. Next, of course, I do really want to read the next book of Book of the New Sun. So Sword of the Lictor, when that becomes available with my monthly credit on Audible plan that I'm on, I'm going to read that. So starting like in a week or so when my credit becomes available. And then what I have in the horizon on the library holds when I looked, I have about 2 weeks left on The Spear Cuts Through Water. So I should be getting that by Simon Jimenez. This is sounds really interesting, like a standalone fantasy series about gods and the journey. So maybe similar to Book of the New Sun, not Book of the Sun, Malazan, about gods meddling, but it's about like shepherding a god on a journey. So it sounded interesting, a lot of praise. And if I finish those two as far as a monthly view, Malazan Book 2, obviously, Deadhouse Gates, already purchased it in Audible because I'm loving it so much. So looking forward to starting that, but I'll probably read something in between. So whether that's Spear Cuts Through Water, or yes, I need to catch up on the final couple books of Cradle, and those will be my breaks in between, I think, the longer Malazan books. And later in maybe get this month, maybe not, I have a 5-week wait left on Cibola Burn, which is book 5 of The Expanse. So eventually we'll be getting back to Expanse. Just these books have super long waits at my library. Now shifting gears to what I watched this past weekend. Even though, yes, I'm recording this on a Monday. Usually I record it at night, but it's a holiday, so recording this in the morning with my cup of coffee. Because it's still only 10 a.m. and I'm recording this when I usually record it at 10 p.m. So what we watched this past weekend. With Red Sonja coming out, even though we didn't watch it, we rewatched Conan the Barbarian from 1982. So it's a good throwback, actually, fantasy. I haven't read the books. I think the books came out in the 30s, the 20s, 30s, 40s. So really old fantasy books. So a different style of fantasy. It's, Conan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, swinging his sword, chopping heads off of snakes. Very kind of classical fantasy. But it makes a good story. And it's interesting watching this in 2025 when it came out in 82. Just the way the movie was made, looking at the practical effects and the sets. Yes, they did some very early CGI kind of special effects with a couple of magic scenes with the witches, but overall, I mean, they're riding on horses, they're going across landscapes. This is how epic movies used to be made. It really echoes back to an earlier time of Hollywood. And it was just kind of really great, and seeing that on screen, it's a totally different experience versus now where everything is green screen, and it's sometimes very clearly green screen. So filming with actors on these huge, fantasy sets, these temples, these villages. Of course, Arnold punching a camel is one of the favorite scenes. I thought it was hilarious when it came up, when he's drunkenly going through the village. He punches a camel. So some couple great moments. Yeah, it was fun. It's fun to rewatch. And then what else we watched? We've got about 70% through Strayer's Chronicle, which is a 2015 film from Japan. We just didn't finish it yet, so I need to finish up the last little bit of it, but it's very kind of going into cliche territory, so it wasn't so great. It's about it's like an X-Men almost ripoff where kids are put under stress trauma to trigger their special abilities, and then they develop these special abilities, and then there's another group of kids that are developed abilities by genetic engineering, and they have their lives cut short because the abilities are kind of their systems working overtime. So because their system works overtime, it shortens their lifespan, and then they're trying to find out who created them, why were they created. So it's feel like a story you've definitely heard before, if not in X-Men, in other media where people are experimenting on to get powers, but with a cost, and then they want to meet their maker and find out why. And yeah, it's okay. Not a lot of special effects scenes talking about special effects, so it's not like a ton of superpowers flying around doing special things. But again, it was kind of okay. We didn't really finish it, so if that tells you anything. What else we watched? On a suggestion of a friend who is going through the New York Times list of 100 best films of the century, besides number one being Parasite, which I don't know if I agree with it, the number one film, but maybe because it's time box and you're not looking at stuff like Schindler's List or Shawshank Redemption, Godfather, those classics of cinema, but because it was time bound for this 100 list of the century. They had Parasite number one, and number two, which is what we watched, is Mulholland Drive. And this is a movie where I'm sure we watched it in college when we were sitting around together in our college apartment. And yeah, because it came out in 2001. I was a sophomore in college, and we watched tons of DVDs. Yes, back then DVDs was the hot thing. There wasn't Blu-ray. So I know I watched this, but yeah, I definitely didn't remember much of it. And if that says anything about David Lynch. So this is a movie, yes, tons of praise over the years. For good reason. It feels like it's a filmmaker's film. It's kind of one of those Hollywood darlings because, yes, it's a critique of Hollywood, and it's a very psychological film. So this is not a superhero film. This is kind of that art house film, which David Lynch is known for. It has lots of interpretation, and it felt like watching a book in a way because you're given a lot of symbols and themes, and you're not really told what it means. So it felt like watching some of these books that I'm reading. It felt like kind of like a Piranesi, like a Book of the New Sun, where things are shown to you or like described in a book for a reason, and you're supposed to kind of understand the author or the director's intent of what it means, what it's symbolizing, what this like the character's journey. So it's a very cerebral film. And yeah, on face value, once of course, this is like a spoiler, but it's a 25-year-old film, so maybe not too much of a spoiler, but the first half is like a dream, and the second half is like reality. At least that's what I took it as, and this is one of those interesting things where, yes, there's a lot of interpretation because it's a vague ending. I was watching some kind of YouTube explainers of what it all meant because the first part is the dream, and then, it shifts to reality, and how do they connect? How do the characters from the dream appear in reality, or reality appear in the dream sequence first half, and what do they mean? How do they connect? So you do kind of need a chart or explainer to kind of map the characters and who is doing what they meant. So very interesting film. I don't know if it's like an all-time great for me because it wasn't, a little too maybe out there art house for me, but it was definitely an interesting psychological film, good for like a book club kind of discussion. And then lastly, on yesterday, we watched Hard Hit from 2021, a South Korean film about like a South Korean thriller. And not to like spoiler, but it's a father is in a car with his kids, and there's a bomb under his seat, and he sort of has this not speed, but he can't leave the car because it's a pressure mounted bomb, and if he gets up, he triggers the bomb. So he has to drive around Seoul and with his bomb strapped while the bomber is talking in his ear, telling him what to do. It also felt like a Hyundai commercial because it prominently features the Hyundai Genesis that he drives around for the entire movie. He never leaves this SUV, so it felt definitely like a car ad as well, but it was done well because it was very thrilling. The music really set the tone, set you on edge of what's going to happen, what's the next twist in the thriller, how is he going to get out of this, how is he going to catch the killer when he can't leave his car, his kids in the back seat. So it's a lot going on. It was decent actually. As far as thrillers go, it's pretty well made. And then to wrap this up, talk about, I guess, TV series in the sci-fi fantasy realm. Alien Earth, episode 4 is getting better still. I really enjoy it so far. I think the direction the series is going so far is great. Kind of, as I said last week, every issue I had with episode 2 was fixed in episode 3, and episode 4 I think is continuing down this journey of developing the world and this plot line of the kids and the corporations and is technology bad. So it's exploring more of those themes, and yeah, I'm just enjoying it a lot so far. And then lastly, still on the anime kick of the summer series of finishing up Kaiju number 8, still good. Dan Dan, still good. Sakamoto Days, still good. And I really want to read Sakamoto Days. I really enjoy this, the current plot point of the anime series where we're learning about the Order and the mysterious samurai old guy that's in the JAA. Really cool. I really like that part of it. And I wasn't so keen on like the kind of the slapstick part of the early part 1 of the season, but this episode so far makes me, okay, maybe I should read the manga and catch up on what's happening, because I like the Order aspect, this shadowy past, these superpowered assassins. It's a lot of fun. But with that said, I also am looking for anime recommendations. We were scrambling to see like, okay, what else could we watch this weekend? When we were trying to none of the movies really were hitting us. We only watched a couple, didn't have anything lined up. And we were looking at anime, like, okay, what else could we watch that we've started and maybe never finished? So we watched a couple episodes of Psychopaths, which is interesting. It's not like super great, but it is that interesting kind of detective pre-crime thing. It's got this subplot going on, with the, not just the detectives, but there's taking over the avatars right now, because we're on episode 4 or 5. So it's maybe getting more interesting, but yeah, looking for something interesting to watch in this kind of we maybe actiony but cerebral. Like we're watching Clevitus, and I really like to talk about other series. I'm really enjoying Clevitus. I think it's getting better and better as well as it goes in this fantasy world of generals and stuff. I think Clevitus is great, but yeah, still looking for something either live action or anime to latch onto. We tried Only Murders in the Building, which is getting interesting because you feel like, yes, everyone should start a podcast after watching this, but maybe not my total kind of murder mystery as far as thrillers, but open for suggestions. And also, as always, open for suggestions of what to read next in my queue in that sci-fi fantasy Book of the New Sun cerebral world, or just fun like Malazan Gardens of the Moon is great. Love it. So thanks for watching. And this is September 1st. So hope you enjoyed your summer. Had a great summer so far. Summer's over here in the Northeast. And with Labor Day upon us, yes, fall is kicking off. So I also need some spooky season, cozy fall reads as the temperature starts dropping. So thanks for watching and have a great week. Have a great fall.